Today we're going to talk about formulas, real estate formulas. We all use these formulas, but we probably don't think about it very much because they're all second nature. But as we get into the video this morning, we'll understand all the different things that go out to make a formula. A formula in real estate is usually ideas and solutions that are put together to solve a need of the client, whether it be the seller or the buyer. These formulas do work, and they're used real extensively in the industry. Today, we're going to talk about a specific formula, and that formula is the Leamonade formula. Now, we all know what lemons are and how tart they are, and we know how to make lemonade. We have to add water, and we have to add a sweetener, and usually the sweetener is sugar. So as we're talking about the lemonade formula today, you can think as we go along, how much sweetener do I have to add to the lemonade to make a very pleasing drink? And so today, that's what we're going to discuss, and it's a real interesting subject. And I think you will be amazed at how many solutions that creative brokers come up with that really actually solve the need of the client. Now, I'm not a real estate attorney, and this video is educational purposes only, just to help us understand how that we can be more creative and be able to hopefully help our client in a better manner. These are formulas that really work, and we use them every day, and we don't think that we use them that much, but actually we do. And I think they're a lot of fun, and a lot of them can get pretty complicated. And so I'm Chuck Trice, and I'm a commercial real estate broker, and I help people structure their deals and try to just do a really good deal for the client. The goal, I think, in every real estate transaction, of course, forget about trying to make a lot of money, but the goal is really to preserve equity in a property that has an undesirable characteristic. Now, I'm sure that all of us have owned or listed a property in the past that something needs to be better to be able to be real popular on the market. Now, some of those things that might stigmatize a property a little bit could be the price. I mean, that's the obvious place that all people start is the price. But it could be the location, it could be the property condition, but one of the big factors is it could be an ownership problem. Now, what could be an ownership problem? Well, a lot of times owners get tired of working on property. They get just stressed out over tenants and the fact that tenants don't pay on time, that they're late, that they try all these games that tenants play. And not all tenants do that, but some tenants, they play the system, especially in COVID-19. And so it can be many factors, but a lot of times it will boil down to the condition of the property, could be the price of the property, the location, the environmental. It could be a big part of the owner is just tired of owning the property. And our job as brokers is to be able to help that client find that lemon that's in the lemon juice. Now, we know that lemons are very tart, and we know that the formula to make lemonade is water and sweetener and the lemon. And so how much sweetener do we need to add to this lemonade to be able to make a very pleasing drink? To translate that, what do I have to do or add to this property that will make it more saleable and make it really popular on the market? So we'll get into an example here in just a little bit, but think about that sweetener that you have to add. What would it take for you to want this property, wherever that property is, and what would you want the seller to do to be able to get you to take this property? And residential real estate brokers, I guarantee you that you use these formulas all the time, and so do commercial brokers. So none of us are left out. And even in transaction with the grocery store or with the hardware store or the flea market, you're going to use the Leamonade formula. What would you add to this transaction to get me to take it? You know, I will buy your car if you'll put new tires on it. I will buy your truck if you will rebuild the engine, and I'll give you full price for the truck with a rebuilt engine. I mean, so all of those conditions exist in the Leamonade formula, and we want to find that. And these formulas are all a result of creative people being able to solve the need of the client, and whether it be the buyer or the seller. What do I have to add to this property, in this case, to get you to be able to want it? And so I think that the Leamonade formula is really good, and it can be a lot of fun. A lot of brokers say, well, why not just drop the price till it sells? Well, that's one way to do it. You could do that, and a lot of people do that. And I'm not going to say that's a viable position, but at times it really is. So drop the price till it sells. And that concept is the market and the price come into the same playing field, and therefore you have a deal. I mean, you could give the property away, but most of us want to maintain that equity. I gave $100,000 for this property, so it must be worth $100,000, or show me why it isn't worth $100,000. None of us, I don't care who you are, like to walk away from equity. And so the idea is to preserve that equity, not to drop the price and give it away, but to preserve that equity, but also make the deal so that the buyer will want that property. ABC plus A plus B plus C, I call that equal a deal. And I'll tell you, a formula is good in certain instances. Not all formulas work. That's just like you can't use an algebraic formula like A plus B squared when you should be using A plus B plus C. And so you have to use the right formula, the right situation, the right client, and the right property, and you'll be able to recognize what formula you should use, because either the seller will tell you or the buyer will tell you. Now, if you've got a property that's kind of stagnant on the market and you haven't been able to sell it, I think you should go to the seller and say, Mr. Seller, you need to help me sell this property. What can we do? In case of the Leamonade formula that's on the screen, you can say, how much sweetener can you add to this property to help us sell it and meet your needs? So the Leamonade formula is very good. I like it. Lemon plus water plus sweetener. What could that sweetener be? Well, let's say that you've got a property that you're trying to sell and it has been lingering on the market. First thing you have to do is identify the lemon. Why is this property not selling? Could be a combination of things. A lot of people like to say, oh, it's the price. But no, it's not always the price. It could be a combination of the price, the condition of the property, the location of the property. And so you have to filter that down to be able to discover the lemon. And then when you discover the lemon, you know how to add the sweetener. The sweetener could be reduce the price, which that's number one on everybody's list. It could be that you do something to improve the location, like rake all the trash out of the yard, clean the property up, trim the trees, paint the building, put in new windows. Even you got a substandard location, a nice property will overcome some of that. Could be the condition of the property. Perhaps it really needs a makeover to be able to meet that price. And of course, as brokers, we know how to find out what the cap rate is, what the rent should be, how to adjust all of that so that you can actually make a profit if you buy this property. So it could be low rent or no rent. It could be the property is completely vacant. And all of those would require a different formula. And it's kind of like saying, yes, I will give you your price if you add this. It could be the ownership problem. It could be an environmental problem, but you have to identify the limit. I'll give you a little example. A vacant lot in a small West Texas town. A friend of mine owns this lot, and the value, let's say, that it's about $25,000. And the lot he has owned the lot for several years, and I don't know if he's marketed it very well or what he's done, but I talked to him once in a while, and he would get rid of that lot, but he wants to maintain his equity. I think the lot is valued at $25,000. That's the equity. It's free and clear. So what is the lemon? One solution to the lemon, the lemon could be the price. It could be the location in a very small West Texas town where there's no building going on, and the lot might sit there for years before somebody would get the idea to build a new house on it. So identify the lemon. Now, one solution, which is a very popular solution, is you go to the seller and say, Mr. Seller, can you add $100,000 cash to this lot, and let's go out into the marketplace and buy something. Now we've got $100,000 cash and we got a $25,000 lot that we don't want. And let's say you go to a larger town and you find a house that's worth $225,000. You approach the seller or the broker and say, I've got $125,000 in the form of $100,000 cash, a $25,000 lot, and I would like to buy your house, and I would like to use that as a down payment, and I will create a note for $100,000. So you got $100,000 cash, you got a $100,000 note, and you got a $25,000 lot. The lot has equity. The seller needs to really look at that deal, because not only are you putting up $100,000 cash, but you're offering a free and clear lot that's valued at $25,000. Now the value may be somewhere in that range, and you're getting a note, a promissory note in first position, that if you need cash, you could go sell that note, or you could just keep it for that income. So this would be a really good deal for the seller and the buyer from where I'm looking at it today. There may be things that changed my thinking on that, but that looks like a pretty good deal. And so now what has happened? The seller preserved his equity in the lot. Now the new person that owns the lot can do the same thing the seller did, or do it better. He could market that lot. He could aggressively go try to sell it. If he went out into the marketplace, he might be able to trade that lot for a $25,000 pickup or a boat, or he may be able to finance that lot with nothing down and payments of $99 a month. So there's 100 ideas that you could come up with that would help both of those people preserve the equity in that $25,000 lot. And that's all in working with the client. And how do you do that? You have to ask the client. Now, you already use the formula. Residential real estate brokers, you call that concessions, you call it carpet allowance, a roof allowance, a window allowance, you call it concessions that to pay your closing costs, your fees that you will have at closing. And so you always are aware that you have used the Leamonade formula, because you're trying to get the seller to add something to the deal that would make your client want that property. That's the Leamonade formula. So ask the seller or the buyer to help you make that deal. But you have to ask, or you'll never get the job done. And you have to counsel the seller and ask them questions that they're probably not used to hearing. Like, Mr. Seller, what will you do to help us sell your lot? Can you add cash? Can you add a note? Can you add something of value that would make the property more saleable on the open market? And of course, most brokers Don't do that in the MLS system because it's kind of cumbersome. But you need to counsel your client, whether it be the seller or the buyer, and get them to realize that the Leamonade formula is there, and it's a very great formula to use because we have equity in all kinds of assets that we may own. And so you can never imagine what a buyer or a seller will come to the table with, because people own lots of assets of different classes, and those assets have equity and they have value, and they may be the thing that helps solve your client's needs. So the Leamonade formula is you got a lemon that's got a little bit of tart to it, and you need to make the drink sweet, so you add sweetener. So that is the Leamonade formula. I hope you use it, and it's kind of a fun thing to do, to be able to enter into this bartering process and able to help the client. So thanks for watching.